He bounces the ball twice, looks up and goes, "You want to die?" And I swear, in less than a nanosecond, Junior replies, "Next time I won't miss." That was the moment we became number one in the world.
Welcome to the Living in the Zone podcast. I'm your host, ZoneCoach Jim Fannin. I've coached champions in life, business, and sports for 50 years with a proprietary thought management system that I discovered called S.C.O.R.E. Every guest on this show has been in what we call a zone state, a purposeful, calm feeling where nothing can go wrong, and you're performing at your highest level. Our guest today is tennis legend Peter Fleming. Peter won 7 Grand Slam doubles titles, including 4 Wimbledon and 3 U.S. Open championships. Beyond his playing career, Peter continues to contribute to the sport as a global commentator and mentor, and most recently as a certified zone coach. Join us as we delve into Peter Fleming's illustrious career and his ongoing influence in the world of tennis. Welcome to Living in the Zone. Peter Fleming, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Peter, I met you in 1980, a long time ago, but I don't know a lot about prior to 1980. When did you get started? You've had an illustrious professional career, but what got you into the game, and how did you get that tennis bug that made you want to take it to another level?
Well, I don't know about that. I first hit a tennis ball when I was 4 or 5. I guess my dad was a really good player, and he loved it. He used to go down to the club every weekend. In the summertime, he'd probably play once or twice during the week after work. And it was just a really nice atmosphere there. And I remember watching him play as a little kid and say, "Daddy, hit with me." And he said, "Well, no, not now, later. And go hit against the wall." And I used to spend hours against that wall. And at the end of the day, I'd say, "Yeah." He'd say, "We're going home." And I said, "Wait a second, you said you would hit with me." And he'd throw me 10 balls, and I'd whiff 9 of them. And on the 10th one, I'd hit it well, and it was like, wow, that felt good. And that's just basically how I was up until about the age of I guess I played my first tournament when I was 10 or something. And
now this is in New Jersey, because a lot of people think you're British, which you're not. You live in Britain, but you grew up in New Jersey, right?
I've lived in London for the last 30 years, but yeah, prior to up until age 24, 25, yeah, born and raised in New Jersey, and played at the Rackets Club of Short Hills, where my dad, he was one of the best players there, and all his buddies played, and it was a great atmosphere. In fact, my buddy Fritz Buning also grew up at the same club, tiny little club, 150 members, 4 courts, and a swimming pool. It was just that 2 really good pros came out of that little club is
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a good story. And
2 world-class players. That's amazing.
So and it was largely due to the fact that the adults were tennis enthusiasts. They all loved to play, and then they had a really nice social life around it, and they also liked the idea of the kids learning how to play and getting involved. And there was a third guy, Steve Kendall, who was also a really good player. He beat me lots of times growing up in the juniors, and became a really good college player. He just decided that he didn't want to try to be a pro. Probably could have done, though. So it was really a strong little program. No pro, anything. Just kids out there having a good time.
The way it should be today. Everything today is so structured.
Yeah.
But you went on to, I believe, correct me if I'm inaccurate, Port Washington. That's a storied program back in the day. Did you play in that academy growing up?
I did. I did. It was.
That was Harry Hopman, yes? Was he there?
Harry Hopman ran that program.
Wow.
Yeah. Tony Palafox was there, John McEnroe's coach, and Vitas Gerulaitis played there. John McEnroe played there. A bunch of guys.
And Harry Hopman, a legendary Australian coach with the great Davis Cup teams. That must have been interesting being under Harry and Tony.
Hopman. Harry Hopman won the Davis Cup 21 times as captain. I mean, we're talking legendary coach.
With Laver,
Rosewall, Hode, Sedgman,
Emerson.
Rosewall, all these guys. They were all under his wing. And so when Mr. Hopman said something, it was like God speaking, And I remember I played a tournament when I was 16 maybe against another guy from New Jersey who was a year younger than me. I think his name is Buddy Robinson. And I was nervous playing against a guy a year younger than me from New Jersey, and I was this big deal supposedly, and he beat me routinely, like 4-1 something, and I just choked. I was just really nervous about playing this guy, feeling the pressure of having to win. And 2 months later, we were drawn to play again in a tournament that was held at Port Washington. And we're about to walk out, and I'm really nervous, obviously, because I'm thinking
you already lost to the guy.
Yeah, I'm going to lose this guy again. And Mr. Hopman comes out from behind a curtain. He goes, "Peter, can I have a word, please?" And it's like, yeah. What do you think? And he goes, "Peter, go for the lines." And
wow.
And
go for the lines. Who says that?
Mr. Hopman thinks that I'm capable of going for the lines and actually succeeding. He's not saying, go for the lines so you'll lose 0-0 to this guy. And I don't know, it was like a magic elixir. I won the match 11-love.
Come on.
I didn't miss a ball. I just got straight into the zone and stayed there.
Isn't that amazing that one comment can take you from almost a depressed state, a fearful state, just like that, by somebody you trusted and somebody you believed in?
Exactly right. It was sort of a really powerful moment in my junior career that, wow, I went from being a very mediocre player to someone who was pretty darn good.
He validated you.
Yeah, I mean, I was good, obviously, the whole time. I just didn't believe it or didn't trust it, and just that one comment just made me feel really good about myself, and that was all the difference.
Now, during that time, who was at Port Washington, which was a mecca of junior tennis, so definitely on the Eastern Seaboard, but around the world, people took notice. Notice of it. Who were the top guys? I mean, at that time, was it McEnroe? Was it Gerulaitis? Was it you?
No, it was Vitas. Vitas was king. Vitas was a great junior player, and he was
Lithuanian descent.
Yeah, he lived, grew up in Brooklyn and Brooklyn or Queens or one of those, and
I can still see the long mane like a lion. His hair.
Oh yeah, Vitas was a real character. He had an effervescent personality. He was one of these guys that everybody wanted to be around Vitas because he was funny and he was smart and quick, lightning quick. So lightning quick of thought and body. He was a great athlete. He was probably the second best athlete to play during our generation behind Bjorn. Bjorn was like a god, and Vitas was not far behind. And so in the juniors, Vitas we used to take lessons from the same guy at Forest Hills. Warren Woodcock was really my coach from age 12 to 25. Warren was my coach, and Vitas, for a summer or two, we used to take lessons from Warren, and so I'd go out there, and Vitas would go, "Come on, Flim, let's go, let's hit that line," and Vitas is he's very sort of controlled and disciplined, and he was hitting the line a lot, and my balls were flying all over the place. I was kind of a scattergun guy, but it was amazing to be around guys like that. Vitas, from I guess from age 17, 18, he was the best junior in the U.S. and he lost the final of the Orange Bowl to Borg, and so he was suddenly one of the best in the world. And so to practice with him.
Were you a streaky player? In other words, you could get on a run, and were you up and down?
I was probably pretty talented. I could play well for times, but then I would just hit the fence. Okay, so I'll give you an interesting story about that. When I was 16, I'd just gotten to Port Washington. It was I was literally there for the first or second week.
Took the train from Jersey? How'd you get there? That's like an hour trip?
I did. I took that train for a year, every weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, hour and a half train ride out to Port Washington, and then walk from the station. It took me more like 2.5 hours to get there, and then stayed the night, Saturday night, and went home on Sunday. And anyway, we were in the coffee shop, one of the other guys and I, and one of the pros is sitting down the row, and he's talking about this kid who's this kid McEnroe who's really good. He's 12. And I said, I'm 16. I'm adolescent guy thinking I'm like, better than sliced bread. And said, well, how good could he be? And the pro goes, he's pretty good. And I said, I tell you what, let's play a match. Next week, I'll give him 4 love, 30 love, and I'll kick his ass. And he goes, you're on. Right? So a week later, we all show up, and there was like 10 guys. 10 of these little kids of his buddies were all sitting on the side of the court. And
this is a face-off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. And I'd never met the guy. And I didn't even know what he looked like. And he literally, the racket was taller than he was. He was so...
You're 16, McEnroe's 12.
Yeah. And he's so little. And he's so little that it looked like every time he swung the racket, the racket pulled him. He was that small. And so we started playing it. And of course, at 16, I had a big serve. But I hit every other ball in the fence. I thought, that's the way you play. You go for your shots and you miss a lot of them. And incidentally, that's the philosophy a lot of pros have today. But he was the opposite. He was he was a quick little guy, and he never missed. He was like a terrier. He just bit my ankle and wouldn't let go until I just say, okay, enough already. So anyway, we played 5 sets. I didn't win one. Every time, I maybe won a game. I almost never won that 30 love game, because 30 love, he never missed. And I would miss. And so he only had to win 2 points to win that game. Then he's up 5 love. I don't think I won that game ever. So I'm down 5 love. And I just wasn't good enough to beat him 6 love, And so from that moment on, it was, it was like, this little kid's got something, he's all right. And they weren't allowed to have, you couldn't play cards in the place. There were no TVs in the place. So you couldn't, so the only thing that people did to waste time was to play chess. They had lots of chess tables all around the place. And so we used to play these marathon chess games, 2-hour chess games. Neither one of us were good enough to actually win, but we could sort of just stay alive. So we had these marathon games and it was really fun. But we became pretty close as I was like his big brother. I would like tease him but there was something. We had some little connection, not much. I went away to college, didn't see the guy for 3 years, and then suddenly, we hooked up on the tour. But it was an interesting dynamic back then.
That's a crazy. I've never heard that story. I've known you for so long. I've never heard that story.
Yeah.
And then you went off to Michigan. You played there 1 year.
Yeah.
Had a good team.
It was a great program. One that I probably
on a tennis scholarship.
Yeah. The coach there, Brian Eisner, was a great guy. Really, really. Ambitious guy, wanted to win the NCAAs, and we had a really good team. Victor Amaya was the number 1. Freddie DeJesus
Victor Amaya, 6'4", big serve.
6'7",
6'7", big serve.
Monster serve.
I played him once in Cleveland.
That must have taken a long time. Yeah,
about 30 minutes. It was quick.
let's see, Eric Friedler and Jeff Miller.
I lost to him too, Friedler.
Well, we were good.
That was a good team.
So we finished third. We came in third that year, ahead of UCLA. And
so why'd you leave?
Well, interestingly, I had a.
You don't like cold weather?
The first match, or just before, we played a challenge match, and I think I beat Victor in a challenge match. And I don't know, I started experimenting with my serve, and I woke up the next day with a muscle spasm in my back, and so the coach said, "Oh, go see the training room. They'll look after you." And it's like, "Well, okay, yeah, whatever you say." And I went in there, and the head trainer goes, Who do we have here? This is the polio poster child, because he's used to working with football players, and I'm just a skinny little scrawny guy, and I was like, who is this asshole? Why, he's supposed to be looking after me. Why is he giving me this aggravation? And so he said, all right, well, you got this. We'll put you on this electric stim machine. And he said, now listen, if it hurts, let me know. We'll back off. And so now I'm a competitor, right? These guys called me the polio poster child. I'm not going to tell him it hurts. So he just cranked it up, and he has this thing up to 10. It's like,
Thank you. Can I have another?
and I'm just going, no, I'm good. And I walk out of the place, and it's like, ooh, I feel good. I feel great. 3 hours later, I was like a pretzel.
Couldn't walk.
Out 6 weeks.
What?
Something. If I had just gone back to my room and done nothing, didn't get out of bed for 3 days, I'd have been better in 3 days. Instead, I'm injured for 6 weeks, and the muscle spasm just went crazy and just wouldn't let go, because it probably thought, this guy's nuts. He's I need to look after myself, or he's going to kill me, and so. I got depressed a little bit. The whole season I missed. Basically, I played 2 matches, I think, no singles matches, and it snowed on May the 5th. That was the final straw. I just
the coup de grace.
Yeah, I just said, what, this is from being depressed and being it was just like I got to get out of here.
Now that's not easy. Today with the portal and all that, it's kind of easy to go from one school to the next. How'd you wind up at UCLA? How did that go?
Well, okay, so the coach at UCLA...
And your coach must have not been happy at Michigan for you to bolt.
Well, the coach at UCLA had tried to recruit me, and when but I'd already signed at Michigan. Mm-hmm. He literally called me a week after I'd signed. And I said, God, I'd love to come out and take a look at it, but I've already committed. And so, obviously, when I thought, well, maybe I'd like to find somewhere warm, cha-ching, that came into my mind. And through various, I think I had asked Mr. Hopman if he could call the coach and just have a conversation with him. And, it was probably, back in those days, probably wasn't legal or anything, but c'est la vie. I think he said, well, we'd love to have him here. Well, I can't give him a scholarship or anything, but he'll be a part of the team, and he practiced with the team, and that was all I needed to hear. That was like, okay, I'm out of here.
And now you're in the UCLA Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Go figure. I can't give you a scholarship. Come out, we'll give it a shot. And you turned that around. Now, did you all win the NCAA?
We did. Yeah.
What was that like?
We had a great team. We had so Brian Teacher, who won the Australian Open, top 10 player, both singles and doubles, was my best buddy at UCLA. He was on the team. We had to play a challenge match to see who played number one in my second year. The first year I was ineligible because I transferred.
Right.
But the second year I could play. And so Brian and I, were neck and neck. And I think, I beat him in a really tight match. And I played one. And because I never lost, I didn't lose a dual match. That, I ended up playing number one for the whole year. And
All-American?
Yeah. And so Ferdy Tagan was on our team. Ferdy was, a great doubles player.
Oh, wow.
He played number 3. And so we actually, I think, back then the NCAAs weren't the team competition. You played tournaments, and each time you won a match, you got a point for your team. And Brian hurt his shoulder, and he was seeded. So the NCAAs, we were seeded 1, 2, and 5. in the singles, so everyone must have thought, well, this is a lock. These guys can't lose this. Brian hurt his shoulder 3 days before it. Didn't play doubles and pulled out of the singles, so Ferdy and I played doubles for the first time. We'd never played together. First tournament we played was the NCAAs, and we won it. So that was, that was kind of,
that's a story about you that you could maybe even win with somebody like me. You've won so many matches that everybody thinks it's the McEnroe Fleming, but you won big matches with other guys, lots of guys.
So you're trying to tell me that the best team in the world is Fleming and anyone?
Fleming and Fannin. Come on.
Okay.
Probably Fleming and anyone, because you've won matches with so many different guys, unlike a lot of players. That can go back to your father, because didn't you all win a father-son national championship?
We did. Yeah.
What was that like?
That was well. You know what? We started playing father and son tournaments when I was 12, and so I'm just this little guy, and my dad was still really good, so he was the better player, And as I got to be 16, 17, I became the better player. But we played a team in the finals. We played at Longwood. It was at Longwood Cricket Club in Boston on the grass, and it rained, and we moved indoors. And I remember we got, it was like 5-all in the third in the final against a team that had won it.
Wow.
Against a team that had won it like 5 or 6 times, And I remember we played 1 point, and I got stuck in the nets in the indoor courts, nets between the courts.
Sure.
I got stuck there, and I couldn't get my foot out, and my dad ended up playing a point singles against the other two.
By himself.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're done. And my dad wins the point, and he, from an emotional perspective, he carried me. He was like a rock. He was just such a solid guy. And I was a better player, but he was the rock, and it was really fun.
How much pride did your dad have winning that? Oh my goodness, that must have been.
Yeah, probably a lot. But after I'd won at least a couple of pro tour titles, and I said to my dad, it must have been 3 or 4 years later. I said to my dad, "Hey, Dad, it'd be fun if we played father and son again." He goes, "No, I'm going out a winner." So I was like, "Yeah, okay,
good move."
Yeah, good.
So you win the NCAA. When did you turn pro?
I was 21 after my junior year at UCLA.
First pro match.
It was in the qualies at Wimbledon, and
wait a minute, your first pro match was qualifier at Wimbledon. Wow.
Yeah, it was, and I think, and I was really exhausted from the NCAAs, and where I lost in the finals, and which was about the only match that I lost. I think that year I lost. No, actually, I lost to Ferdy in a match the week before the NCAAs, but that was my teammate. That didn't really feel that stressful, but. I lost in the final, and then we won the doubles, and it was like a difficult week. And so I went to the Wimbledon, and I was kind of fried. I was just like, it was a long season, and I probably didn't put in as great an effort as I would like. I think I lost to Paul McNamee, 4-1.
Australian.
4-1, something like that, where the second set was just going through the motions. And
when was your first win? First match? First pro match you ever won?
I have no idea.
First big check you ever got that you can remember winning an event?
I played a little tournament in Tucson, Arizona that Charlie Passarell and Alan Fox tried to put together a little tour. There's just little 8-man events, and I won the tournament, got a check for $6,000, and the next day bought a car. for $3,000, I bought this nice car for $3,000, and it was a used car, obviously, but that I remember that $6,000. That was like, wow, I'm in the big time.
Do you remember the first time you and I met?
I do. Rosemont Horizon, 1980, or 81, 81.
81, and I remember that it was a tournament.
No. Okay, so.
Oh no, I met you in Miramar Beach. But I didn't. I met you, but I didn't coach you or anything like that. That was a tournament.
I don't know. I just remember being somewhere with Vitas. And Vitas played at that S.C.O.R.E Beach, so maybe that was that. But
I think that was.
I think it was probably in Milan or somewhere like that. And I remember asking Vitas, who's that guy with Panada? And Vitas goes, I don't know. He's a shrink or something. I don't know. That was it. That was it. That's all.
He's a shrink.
So you were this nebulous character who just wandered around with Adriano Panada, and nobody knew anything about you. He was just like, who is that guy?
Dressed in black like Johnny Cash every day.
It's just okay, well, whatever. And then you come up to me and give me, tell me what you do, and it was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Well, I remember that tournament in Chicago. I think the wind chill on that was like minus 50 or 60. It was something.
It was record breaking.
It was record breaking, and everybody was trying to get out of there. And I said, I'll see you in Philadelphia. He said, yeah, why don't you come meet me in Philadelphia? I think that was the next week. I said, oh, okay. So I go to Philly. And I watched you play in the old Spectrum in South Philly, which they've now torn down. And I had a workbook. And I said, I want to go over the S.C.O.R.E system with you. And okay. And you're kind of wanting to do it and kind of not wanting to do it. And you go, yeah, I got to do my laundry, though. And so we walked across the street from the Spectrum in a gnarly part of South Philly. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting on top of a washing machine, watching you do your underwear, thinking, what the hell am I doing with this guy in a laundromat in South Philly?
It was probably a step up for you, though. You got to admit that, right?
It was so surreal. I'll never forget it. Anyway, I saw you folding your clothes and all that. And then, off we go. Me chasing you around the world, and we've had some crazy experiences, and I do have one in mind right now that was really crazy. Somebody asked me some time ago, what's your most embarrassing moments in your career? And I go, I got a whole bunch of those, and Peter Fleming's in a couple of them. And so I got to tell this story, and you can tell your rendition of it. So here we are at the Alan King Classic in Las Vegas. We're in the tournament. You're playing
Caesar's Palace, by the way.
Excuse me.
It was like a great event.
Great event.
Yeah.
And the perks and all the side stuff was a lot of fun. So I'm there, and I'm coaching you, and you're in a stadium. I think there's 4,000 or 5,000 people. I don't remember, but it was a packed.
It was probably 400 or 500, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
I think there was more than that. But in any event, when you hear the story, I felt like it was 1 million people, quite frankly. And you're playing Bob Lutz, which you definitely could be.
A match I could have, should have, would have won.
Should have, could have, would have. And so it's now in the third set, and I remember you hit a serve. First serve goes over the baseline, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's long. And you hit another one. You hit 2 first serves as hard as you could hit them, no second serve, double fault. 2 hard serves again. Second serve, bomb, double fault. Double fault again, down, love 40, and then you screamed at the top of your lungs, my serve sucks, and that's my coach. He taught me my serve, that's my coach. And I'm not kidding you. What's that commercial? Do you want to get away? It's a Southwest Airlines. Do you want to get away? I was so embarrassed. I was stymied. I didn't know what. I'm pretty glib, and I can get myself out of a lot of situations. That one, it was deer in the headlights. That was terrifying. Would you like to add anything to that story, please?
Yeah, sure. I think
you snapped.
I think you once said to me, Peter, you got to make a decision here. You got to decide if it's more important for you to win or to be angry, and I thought about that for a long time, and I thought, you know what? There's sometimes when it is more important just to be angry, and that was just a moment of complete and total emotional insanity, and I had to release it somehow, and And you thankfully were sitting there.
Well, thank you very much.
And it was just bit of a comical moment out of it.
God.
I mean, and look, it's a gift that keeps on giving. You get to tell that story for the rest of your life.
Keeps on giving. And everybody was there is probably still telling that story, too. I remember walking out of the stadium, and everybody was pointing at me.
Well,
anyway,
that's the first time. That's probably maybe the last time that's ever happened.
A lot of accolades on that day for me. I understand. I got a lot of serving lessons after that, by the way. That ruined my career also. But in any event, we had some great times. You had some great wins. You had a streak where you beat, I think you can correct me, McEnroe twice in a couple of weeks.
No, I beat him once in the finals of L.A., and then the next week we played in the finals of San Francisco, and I was up a set and a break three times. So in other words, I was up a set and 1-love, 2-1, 4-3, something like that. So I was 2 games away from beating him 2 weeks in a row, and he toughed me out as he often did players. But that was like the highlight of my career, really. Those 6 weeks, really, when I was in the zone for almost the whole time. And
you've told this before, because a lot of people have misconceptions about the zone where you just got to be locked in and, 100%. And I remember you telling me, I was talking to the crowd. I was loose.
And that was
that was a breakthrough.
It was a breakthrough for me, because I had just met my girlfriend to be wife.
Supermodel. She was a model, right?
2 months ago, 2 or 3 months before that at Wimbledon, yes, and she was traveling with me for those, L.A. and San Francisco 3 months later or something, and I was just in love, and all was right with the world, I relaxed, because I was a high tension guy. I was stressed and anxious, and that probably was the thing that
And you were, for the non-tennis, but you were an attacker.
I was.
You attacked all the time.
At the time, going into that period, I was probably ranked 25 in the world, so I was a good player. But I would always find a way to lose against the best players. I probably choked or just gave it away, and then I went into this period where I was in love, and I felt probably like, oh wow, I am worthy of something good. And I remember beat Roscoe Tanner a couple of times, who was ranked 4 in the world at the time. John was ranked 3. Beat him, was 1-1 with him then. So I really did feel that, on a hard court at least, that I was no worse than number 3 or 4 in the world for that 2-month period.
Now, you said something, the show Living in the Zone, and you talk about a girlfriend, and we can talk about wives and girlfriends, but getting it together is not just on the tennis court, because that's a lifestyle, and a lot of people think it's easy, the Pro Tour. It's a band of gypsies, and you're entertaining the people in different stops, and you all travel somewhat together. But having a family, having a significant other, that's not easy. And, of course, if something happens, your wife doesn't travel with the kids, it's not easy in that have a lifestyle as a professional athlete.
As a professional player, it probably takes a special personality to enjoy that lifestyle. But I loved it. It was just, I'd died and gone to heaven. For a significant other, I think it's a really hard lifestyle, because you're giving everything and getting very little back in return. Okay, you've got a glamorous lifestyle perhaps, but you look behind the curtain and it's not that glamorous. There's a lot of time.
Hotel, airport, court, hotel, airport, court.
Wasting time.
Over and over again.
Doing something that you might not even be that interested in.
Right.
And it's just, okay, your significant other might be making a lot of money, and it's you get to travel and see the world, but it's hard. And so it takes a special type to want to do that, and I think that is a challenge that pros have to deal with.
I think the tour in all pro sports is littered with super athletes that just couldn't meet that lifestyle.
Yeah.
The travel is crazy. I mean, one you traveled as much as I did at those times. I was gone 48 weeks 1 year. That was like, what is that? I had an apartment, in Naperville, Illinois. I went there one time. It was crazy. Did you ever get totally fatigued on the travel? Did you take breaks? Were you sophisticated in building a schedule around lifestyle?
Back then, first of all the top players, Connors, Borg, McEnroe, all played 12 weeks a year or 12 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
So with 2 weeks in the majors, it might be 16 weeks, and then Davis Cup maybe. It was a maximum, though, of 20 weeks where they were actually
then they're playing exhibitions.
Playing exhibitions, maybe another 4 or 5. But it's 26 weeks, let's say. It's no more than that.
Half a year.
So everybody's playing a week, taking a week off, and that sort of thing, or playing 3 weeks and taking 3 weeks off, and I think that was that was from a lifestyle perspective, that was a pretty good balance, and I played maybe a couple more than that, but I'm sure I had several years where I didn't play any more than 14 or 15 tournaments.
When you got out there, did you have an idol, or not necessarily a worshiping idol, but somebody in tennis where you're like, I can learn from this guy by watching? And who did you kind of model your game after?
So because my coach was an Australian guy, I loved watching Ken Rosewall play. Now, Ken Rosewall was the opposite of me. He's 5'6", quick, and never missed a ball. And
never missed a backhand.
Yeah, never missed a backhand. He didn't miss too many forehands either.
Right.
But his backhand was the greatest slice backhand of all time, and so I love watching him. He was probably one of the greatest volleyers of all time. So I really
and his demeanor was calm and cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, the two Americans I liked were Arthur Ashe and Stan Smith. Stan was a tall guy like me, so I thought, okay, well, maybe I could play like him. He was a great athlete. He moved,
and serve
really well.
And serve and volley was a big deal then.
And Arthur
as
Ashe,
opposed to now.
Arthur was one of these slashers, and I suppose personality-wise, you can tell someone you need to play like this, but everybody has a personality type.
Sure.
that is their natural sort of state of being, if you will, and I felt like mine was similar to the way that Arthur played. And I remember early on in my career having a conversation with Ray Moore, who was a
South African guy.
South African solid player, very intelligent guy. And Arthur was, or rather Raymond was talking about how nobody liked to play against Arthur because they had no say in the outcome. Arthur either made hit winners or made errors. And
so he gave you no rhythm.
No rhythm, no nothing. It was just you had nothing to do with whether you won or lost, and it basically left you powerless. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I like that idea. I like messing up with other guys' heads, and so I almost like adopted that as my reason for being. So that's probably why I started hitting second serve aces and going for 2 first serves basically, because I just didn't want to give a guy a feeling that okay, here comes the second serve, I can punish him with it. I was no. I'm if I hit a double fault, fine. And I used to have a theory: if I double fault twice in a game, I'm still good. If I double fault 3 times, then I'm likely to lose my serve. But I often
and make your coach mentally ill.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I look back on that, go and think, what? That wasn't the greatest strategy. That I could have, just backed off my second serve 10% and made a lot more of them, and my odds would have been a lot higher. But I'm sure there was a self-sabotage or lack of belief thing working there somewhere that made me almost, invite catastrophe.
I remember you and I are out on the court at Forest Hills, and we're just hitting balls, and I think I'm you're doing some drills or something at the net, and Pat Cash is next to us by himself, serving. Pat Cash, the Australian, great player, and he's serving, running to the net, coming back. He's doing sprints.
Yeah.
So you and I had practiced maybe an hour and a half, and Cash was doing all this during the time we were practicing. I remember you and I sat down, and Cash just kept doing it, and I think he went over and got sick and maybe puked in the little tidy court. And I'm like, oh, wow, the guy pushed himself to a limit, and he went back and started serving again. I remember looking at it, I go, how are we going to beat that guy? And I think we may have got up and hit 10 more balls or something. But did you train physically hard enough looking back on your career?
No.
Because there wasn't a lot of physical training. I mean, guys had natural talent. I mean, today the kids are training physically 12 months.
Yeah. No,
well,
it wasn't as emphasized as it is now. Certainly, I think that you have guys like Gerolaitis and Borg who would just play 5 hours, 6 hours a day,
right,
and be running after every ball
and wear you down.
And so their fitness levels were through the roof. You know, I mean, whether they went to the gym or not. I mean, Borg was like Superman. He was so strong.
He was,
and
a world-class sprinter.
Yeah,
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Quick.
So there were some guys like that. You know, I could have done more, but there was a fear deep down in my mind. I'm sure that every time I worked harder, I broke down, and physically, and so I reached a point where I know I'm out of shape, but every time I try to get back into shape, you know, I break down, and it was really depressing. And I'm sure had I allowed myself just to think, you know, don't worry, just like peck away at it, slowly,
chip away,
slowly get a little stronger, so that your body is now strong enough to maintain it. But there was something deeper that was obviously holding me back there. There was something that I didn't want to face or didn't know how to face, or you know, and
about that time the tour changed. I remember you and I were in Columbus, Ohio at the Buckeye Boys Ranch tournament, and I think you'd won the first or second round. I don't remember, but you're now going to play Guillermo Vilas, and Vilas had kind of turned the tour upside down of being fit. And so you're playing him, and I remember, I think we were in a trail or something, you were stretching, and Vilas had already practiced hard for like 2 hours with Tyriak.
3 hours, probably,
yeah. And then he came in, and in front of us, and I don't know if you remember, I watched him do like 200 crunch sit-ups like an animal, and I'm thinking, we got to beat this guy in straight sets. Nobody on the tour wanted to go 3 sets with Vilas. So everybody would go out there, and we lost that match. But that was a change when everybody started getting fit, and Thomas Muster came in. And, I mean, today everybody's world-class fit. But tours changed.
It is, you know, it's not right to say that people weren't fit before. Roy Emerson was a horse.
Yes, he
you know,
was.
Lou Hode.
The Aussies
these guys,
were always fit.
Those guys could run through walls, and I'm sure a lot of the Americans.
And then go out and drink 6 beers.
16.
Yeah, 16. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I drank a little bit with Fred Stolle once. I was in shock.
Yeah,
yeah.
They were pros.
They were pros.
They were good. But you know, I guess now it's different in that, you know, John and I traveled for several years. Neither one of us had a coach, and it was like we were each other's coach, you know. And okay, it was more just support system, and so there was nobody holding you accountable,
right?
You know, and in fact there was a power, you know, because I was kind of an anxious guy. What I needed was to relax. And so I remember before at least 1 or 2 finals, you know, the night before we both lost in singles, and so we just had the doubles final to go the next day, and Junior would come in or we'd talk, and he'd go, yeah, we got invited to this party, let's go. I go, we're playing the finals tomorrow. You know, it's like, you know, I don't know. He goes, come on, man, we couldn't lose to these guys if our life depended on it. And it's like, okay. And of course, then we go to this party and we stay out late and we had like more than a few beers, and show up the next day hungover, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, what are we going to do here? And your mind goes to a place that it's just like, pull it together. Your body's not what it should be, and your mind just says, figure it out. And so we won the matches, and it became almost like a strength, like a tower of strength, almost like, wow, we can beat these guys hungover. It's like, what? and no, seriously. And I probably took that to the extreme. It's like, okay, so that's not the limit. Well, let's push the limit a little further. Okay. Well,
what a lot of people don't know, the 70s tennis and early 80s was party hard. You'd go to Stockholm and Alexander's nightclub. Every night, everybody would be there. It was party hardy every single city. So if you wanted to do that, it was totally available on the tour at that time.
Oh yeah, no, it's and in fact in the 70s and 80s it was nothing like it was in the 60s and the 50s. Those times they were, they played in places like Southampton and in the U.S. circuit it was that week, tennis week, was the highlight of the social calendar for the year. So every club you went to, there's like 7 nights. There's 7 different parties.
Let's party
at some rich person's house who wants to show the world how great a party he can throw. And so the players were invited, as a matter of course, because they're the entertainment. Let's show off these players, and so the tour was very social in those years. Now, when it became pro in '68, open tennis, it slowly became just a little more professional. And the first coach who appeared on tour was probably Leonard Berglund, because Bjorn was 15, and so Leonard was like his father figure, right, chaperone and then Bjorn started doing so well, and other people said, well, maybe that coach idea is not such a bad one. And Fred Stolle showed up with Vitas, and Connors had Lorne Kuehl, I think, showed up with him, and so it became gradually more and more professional. But through my career, there were just a handful of guys who had coaches. Now everybody has 4 or 5 people on their team, 4 or 5 families that they're feeding. Right? It's like if a player loses, those 4 families suffer. Right? They might have a job, but they might be 1 week closer to getting the axe. Right? So those coaches are, and physios and trainers are going, no. You think you're going out to have fun tonight? That's not happening. You're going to bed 9 o'clock, and you'll be tucked up and hydrated and feeling good. So it's a different atmosphere now.
I got out there, and I was getting 15% of what everybody made that I was coaching, plus expenses. So when that happens, nobody wins. What am I doing? Somebody's paying me expenses. I'm making no money. So. Yeah, I had a different mindset with everybody. I was doing my best to hold everybody accountable, which wasn't easy back then at all.
Yeah, but it's a different world today. I mean, it's like ancient history we're talking.
So let's talk about, being in a zone state for one person is one thing, but being in a zone state as a team or a company or a family, a whole, you can do that. You and John McEnroe, you had a symbiotic relationship where you could communicate almost with no words, where each person was going to go. How did that relationship mature and grow? And you guys were beating some old guys that were supposedly the best in doubles. You were just dumping on them. South African, Bob Hewitt. I think they were the top at the time.
So
Hewitt McMillan, am I correct?
Yeah, they were number 1 when we first when we first played together, and John and I, because we had that history from the juniors, and then I didn't see him for 3 or 4 years. I went away to college, and I'd been a pro now for a year or two, and And he came out of nowhere. He was still in high school and went to Wimbledon, got to the semifinals. Suddenly, instead of, his schedule had been set, he's going to play all the junior tournaments in the U.S., and he gets to the semis of Wimbledon, he's ranked 20 in the world. And so it was an instant recalculation. Okay, I guess I'm playing the Pro Tour this summer rather than the juniors. And so I'm the only guy he knew. Literally the only player he knew on the tour was me. And so the first tournament after Wimbledon, we went to Newport and we just hung out a little bit. I think we both lost early. And we would practice together and hang out and just really enjoyed each other's company. He was a very precocious 18-year-old, and I was probably a slow 22-year-old. So we met in the middle there somewhere. We were both about 20, and so we just connected. Boom, straight. We got each other. And that summer, I bet you we practiced every day. 2 hours together every day, and we say, okay, all right, let's play a set. This one's for lunch. This one's for beers. This is for dinner. And we were probably pretty close to 50-50, whether who won or lost. And we used to, we just used to do stuff a lot of fun stuff that got us close. And we played in the fifth tournament we played together. We got to the finals of Wimbledon. We beat Smith and Lutz, who were seeded second.
Wow.
We saved 8 match points in that match.
Wow.
That was in the second round, yeah. And so that was good. We played the final of Wimbledon, and I was so nervous. I mean, literally, first time on center. No, it was the second time on center court. We played the semis there, and we lost the first set in the semis 6-1. And somehow, when I was in 12 minutes or something, I was so nervous. And somehow we won that match. So we get to the finals. Same thing happens. We lose the first set, 6-1, in about 12 minutes. And these guys are good, Hewitt and McMillan, and they kill us, like 1-4-2. And I'm so embarrassed. I'm just thinking, oh my God, that was the worst performance I could have thrown in.
And the world saw it.
Yeah, it was the Wimbledon final. So anyway, we went away. A month later, we played we won our first tournament in Orange, New Jersey, and then we won the tournament in San Francisco, and maybe we won the tournament in Hawaii, or I can't remember exactly. But first week in October, we're in the final of Cologne in Germany, and we're playing Hewitt and McMillan, and the score is 2-3. We've held serve. It's on serve anyway. Whatever it is, 2-all, 2-3 or something, and it's one of these situations where eventually we should be the best team in the world. Is it going to be today? Well, I don't know. It's like I feel better than I did in that Wimbledon final, but you don't know. These guys are great. They're one of the all-time great teams, and I remember first point. So let's say it's 2-3, and it's Hewitt serving to me, and I hit a really good return. I played the deuce court, and I hit a rocket low backhand return. He has to half volley. He half volleys it up down the line, thinking that Junior's going to cross, and he's standing there, right? And he takes a full swing. He's at the net, and Hewitt's at the net, but he takes a full swing, whoosh, hits it as hard as he could. As hard, like
right at Hewitt,
a rocket, and it passes Hewitt 6 inches to the left of him, and Hewitt gives him the evil eye, right? And Junior doesn't even notice. He just turns around, walks back to return serve, and I'm thinking, oh, something's going to happen here. And Hewitt stares him down, stares his back down, and then he walks back to serve. He bounces the ball twice, looks up, and goes, "You want to die?" And I swear, in less than a nanosecond, Junior replies, "Next time I won't miss." And And it was, I mean, talk about a clarion call.
Didn't Hewitt have a bald hair? He was tall, wasn't he?
No, he was a big, strong guy.
Big, yeah, like a blacksmith.
He was, he was in his late 30s, but he was kind of a bully, and so he'd use this tactic of intimidating players.
Do you want to die?
Do you want to die? And the response was so fast that, and I'm just going like, oh my God. Oh my God! It was like dun, 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 charge, right? And I'm saying, well, choking just went out the window. There was no option, no option. You get in the zone now, or it's over. You're never going to be a tennis player again. If you choke in this situation.
Moment of truth.
3-2. We barely lost points after that. I mean, we just wiped the floor with these guys. And it was, and that was the start. That was the moment we became number one in the world.
I love it. I love that. It's a great story.
Yeah,
Peter.
no, it's a good story. It like reminded me back in the day. Remember the New York Jets when Joe Namath, said that the first two Super Bowls, the Packers thumped the AFL, and the Jets are playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. And everybody thinks, the Chiefs are going to win by 20 easily. And Joe Namath goes, someone asked him, do you think you guys can win? And Joe Namath goes, I don't think we're going to win. I guarantee it.
Guarantee it.
Yeah, I guarantee we're going to win. And that was just like, whoop, and the Jets won. And the Jets won in the press conference. The Jets won, and it was the same exact moment.
So, Peter, your career's over, pro tennis, and you coached a little bit in England, and now you're a zone coach. Now you're a mental coach.
Yeah.
That's a transition. Tennis is you mentioned chess. Tennis is like a physical chess match, running, but it's such a mental game.
Yeah, it's more than that. It's warrior like. It's a less physical boxing match. There's no physical danger, but it's the same as boxing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mano a mano. And now you just came back from Miami tournament. Just quickly, give me your State of the Union. I mean, the tour's changed. It's the money's ridiculous. It's a lot more money than you made. What's the most money you ever made in 1 year on the tour?
I don't know. It was like $400,000 or $500,000. I had a good year, a couple good years. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's like $5 million in today's money, easily.
Yeah.
So it was. It felt like, millions, but it was nothing compared to what they make now.
So your experience coming back from a tournament in Miami, what's your thought on the State of the Union of men's tennis right now? For the U.S.?
Well, for the U.S., there are a lot of really good U.S. players right now. You got guys like Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton and
Tiafoe?
Yeah, Francis Tiafoe and a few other guys that I'm sure have slipped my mind right now. So the depth is really strong in this generation. Nobody yet has burst through to say to Sinner and Alcaraz and Runa and some of these other young guys, hey, I'm in this party too. Those guys have separated them, especially Sinner and Alcaraz, have basically just said, yeah, we're young, but big deal. It doesn't matter how old you are. It matters how good you are, and we're good. And so none of those Americans have stepped up into that category. I'm hoping that a few of them will at some late stage. But as you go on, I remember Jan Tiriac once said to me, he was
a player, been a famous coach of Vilas.
Then he was Vilas's coach.
And Becker.
And no, he was Becker's agent. He wasn't Becker's coach. And then Becker won Wimbledon, and then Henri Leconte signed with Jan. And I remember Henri was a great player. What a talented player.
Lefty,
just fantastic talent.
Shot maker.
A little nuts, no, very nuts, but I remember saying to Jan, well, Henri, he's going to win majors for sure. And Jan said, if he doesn't win a major in the next year, he'll never win one. This is when Henri was like 21. He said, if he doesn't win one in the next year, he's never going to win one. And Henri got to the semis at Wimbledon a couple times, the finals of the French, never won one. And Jan was right. And so the idea is, well, okay, you can the number of guys who win their first major at age 30, won. Andres Gomez won the French when he was 30, and that was the only major that he won. The number of guys who win their first major at age, I don't know, 27, 28, they're not. It's not a huge number, and so can those guys take that next step? You often get baggage. You lose to somebody several times, and that's stored. That's stored back there, and it's difficult to erase it.
No question about it. Living in the zone. Yeah, that's this show. Living in the zone. So it's more than tennis. You now have a new lifestyle. Recently married. Living in Abu Dhabi. I never thought I'd say Peter's living in Abu Dhabi. I didn't think that would happen.
I don't think it's a full-time thing, but it's been nice for the last 8 months, yeah.
So how's the new living in the zone for yourself?
Great, fantastic. I mean, so 40 years ago, you introduced me to S.C.O.R.E, and instantly it's like, this makes sense. But there was something that I didn't quite get from it. And I thought, it was more, I viewed it more as an intellectual exercise. Well, if I did this and study it but there was something for me that was missing. It was maybe the fact that I wasn't willing to open up, to like bear my deepest emotions.
Right.
And so it always was I never quite got the full benefit from it. And of course, so I got married, and I had been basically retired. I was playing golf with my buddies, having a few beers, and just slowly, just easing into early death, probably. Just fading away, having a good time, having a really good time,
going out with a stogie.
But the ambition wasn't there. And suddenly I get married. Now I met this woman, fell in love with her, and she had a lifestyle that was going to cost me more than I'm used to spending. Right? It's like, oh my God, I got to start making some money again.
I love her, but I need some cash.
Yeah, and it's been an unbelievable year in terms of my growth and my ability, my willingness just to, okay, I got to pull it together here. This is not just I'm going through the motions and trying to get a job. It's if I'm going to be a coach, that even brought me to you to say, hey, Jim, let's work together. Or I don't know if you came to me, I don't even remember how that worked, but that was going out on a limb. For me, and so I studied a lot. I listened to so many podcasts, and really tried to grow my knowledge of just what is this, the whole psychological side of achieving things, and I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about if only, But if only is stupid. If only doesn't work. It's you have no power in the past.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
It's just okay. Learn from it, and now here we are. We're in the present, and so it's been a fantastic 1 year's journey so far, and I'm certain that it's only going to get better for the next
Peter,
however long we go.
You have a wealth of experience. You have a wealth of knowledge. And I'm not kidding you. You look the same. I feel like I'm back in the 80s. You look the same. Your body weight's the same. I'm a little heavier. You're not. You look great. You look like you could suit it up and play tomorrow. But, at some point in your life, there's an intersection of I have enough experience. I have enough knowledge. I still have youthful energy. And that window opens of opportunity. And right now, if I was a young player on the tour, woman or man, I could see you helping me get to the next level because of the experience, the knowledge, the S.C.O.R.E system, which you now understand backwards and still learning about it. But I'm excited about what you can do to help somebody, and I can see you coaching the next number one player in the world. Well, hopefully it's an American, but maybe not. Obviously, it's a global sport, and you live in London. It could be anybody, but there's a lot of people you could definitely help.
Well, thank you very much. I agree with you. I think that I was a coach 25 years ago, and I helped quite a few talented players, and they never quite achieved what I thought that they might. And I realized that, and back then I thought, oh, wait a second, I've got this wisdom from Harry Hopman, John McEnroe, Warren Woodcock, some Glenn Bassett. I mean, a lot of great coaches. And I know as much about tennis as just about anybody alive, I think. And yet, but none of my guys are getting to where I think they should. And so it became, it wasn't at the moment, but I thought about it a lot over the years. And I realized, you know what, you can talk till you're blue in the face, but if someone doesn't feel that themselves, well, people would just look at me and go, well, okay, fine, that worked for you, but I'm not you. You were better than me, and of course that wasn't the case. But there was something that clicked in my head that didn't click in theirs, so coaching isn't about telling people things; it's about helping them learn things.
Well, I found in my career it's helping people think less, not more. I'm not adding on. Everybody has the basics. Some are better than others, but that's kind of an entry fee to get on the tour. You got to have the basics honed pretty well. But that next level to the center, that's a mental game. And getting there's one thing. We can talk about that at another time. But in staying there, well, that's a whole different deal. And that's where the mental side comes in. Peter, thanks for being on the show. You're awesome. I love you. You're definitely my best friend, one of my best friends of all time. And we've had a lot of laughs together and good times. And I'm looking forward to the future. It's going to be awesome.
Me too. Thank you.
Stay in the zone, Peter.
I promise.
Thanks for watching or listening to Living in the Zone podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so you can be up to date on all of our information and content. Go to ZoneCoach.com where you're going to learn more on how we can help you live your life, business, or sport in the zone.